Hello, my name is Rob Munson. I'm here with John Wolfgram. We're going to talk a little book talk today. John's written a book about coaching here and looking back on John's career. Obviously, a great career for John Wolfgram. A lot of people don't know, John, you were actually coaching in the 60s. So you've coached in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and the 2010s. Not to make you feel old, John, but you were coaching back where you were at the University of Maine at Orono as an undergrad. You actually coached, I think it was 1969, was it, at Orono High School?
You're one of the few people that know that, but that's true. That's exactly right. I started coaching in 69. Yep.
So you've seen a lot of athletes over the years, and you've written this book, Coaching at the Highest Level. What motivated you, John, to write this book?
Well, first of all, I thought I had a book in me, Robbie. Coaching for 47 years, had experienced a lot of things, and I think I had an understanding of a lot of things relating to coaching, working with kids, teaching, and things like that. And I enjoy writing. I've been an English teacher for a long time, so I figured I'd put two and two together and put together a book. So that was kind of the motivation. It's mostly for coaches, but it's for anybody who enjoys sports, and it's a book about culture of coaching. It's not about X's and O's. It's not about the spread offense, the wing T, the 52 defense, the 4-2-5 defense. It's basically about the culture and how to put together a program, how to work with kids and things like that. First chapter is how important a coach is to the overall program. Obviously, your athletes are important, your community backing and things like that, but I talk about the impact of a coach. And then I go on to talking about philosophy, developing a philosophy, how to develop a philosophy, where you can get assistance and things like that. Then I have several chapters. I have a chapter on motivation and different types of motivation, how to motivate consistently and establish motivation. I have a chapter on discipline as a cornerstone. I think that any program, whether it's lacrosse or football or basketball, I think the cornerstone of your program has to be discipline. I have a chapter on that. I have a chapter on teaching creatively. As you mentioned earlier, coaching is just an extension of teaching, and I think to be successful, you have to be a creative teacher, and I have a chapter on that. I have a chapter on player-coach relationship, which personally I think is the most important thing in the coaching equation, is the relationship you have with the players. I have a chapter on that. Then that's the first half of the book. The second half of the book, I write to what I call coaching the millennial athlete. And the millennial athlete, basically, I talk about the last generation, basically the new kids and how they're different. And obviously kids are a lot different today. In that particular section, I start out with the parent-coach relationship, and today with parents it's a lot different than it was back when I started in the early 70s, and I talk about some of the issues that we have with parents, why we have those issues, how to basically deal with the parents in a proactive manner, basically, and things like that. So I have a chapter on addressing the parents issue. So my second chapter under the millennial athlete is specialization compared to a multi-sport athlete. That's been a huge change today, is the trend towards specialization, and I talk a lot about the reasons behind that trend, why a lot of kids want to specialize today, and I try to give a fair appraisal of both sides. When specialization is a good thing, when it would not be a good thing, and I talk about the pros and cons of specialization, and which I think is very relevant today. The third chapter under the millennial athlete is a chapter on focusing, creating a concentrated atmosphere on the practice field in meetings and things like that. I think one of the things about kids today is in a lot of cases they don't focus quite as well as they used to, and I don't know if the teenagers focus well as it is, but a lot of things change today because of the social media, the pace of life, some of the issues that kids have to deal with. So focusing is definitely an issue, and I have a chapter about that, how you can basically accentuate the focus in the practice field and develop an attitude where you're plugged in and locked in throughout a practice and also in a game, that type of thing. And the fourth chapter in that particular area under the millennial athlete, I talk about a case for sport, and I make a case that sports are the most important learning activity for young people in a high school setting, and I really believe that for a lot of reasons, and I have a chapter on that. And basically kids who are playing sports do it voluntarily, and they want to be there, they're invested, and I talk about sports being life with the volume turned up. Basically, the highs are high, the lows are lower, you have to deal with those highs and lows, and there's so many things you learn about yourself. And So I have a chapter basically about sports and how sports are important to the whole learning spectrum.
John, where can folks purchase a copy of this fine book?
Okay, I have a Facebook page, John Wolfgram, or CoachWolfgram.com, and it's right on there. There's a process of how to order the book, and like I said, Robbie, it's not about X's and O's and everything. It's about the culture of the game of football, and it's for anybody who likes sports. And I designed it mainly for young coaches, so I could impart some knowledge to those young coaches. And but it's available to any coach who wants it, any sport, and like I said, CoachWolfgram.com.
And if folks read the book and they've got some comments, or they want to connect and say, Coach, what do you mean by this, or something like that, you're available for feedback.
I am, absolutely.
Well, this is awesome, John.
Good.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks,
Continued success at the coaching level and as a book author. And thanks for joining us here from Gardner Area High School. Well, that's going to do it for, as we called, Football Book Talk. John Wolfgram, Rob Munsing. So long, everybody.